Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Choochin on a Monday afternoon. Yes, we are not out chooching under the sun today. I'll tell you, we go from just no summer at all. We just went from about 65, 68, 71 degree days right up to 95 degrees today. So we didn't want to take the dogs out, in that. So welcome aboard, everybody. Choochin at home today, and in light of the events that have happened recently, not only in the RV community but in our own community with trans girls, Jen and I wanted to talk a little bit today about coming out versus being found out, and how important it is in life if you're differently your sexual identity or your what you identify with, whether it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, is so important that you control sort of the message. Not that you're trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but there's a big difference between you coming out. Of course, we don't wear our sexuality on our sleeve. You don't walk down the street and somebody says, "Oh, I'm gay" or whatever. But when you're in a community and you can subtly start to build the message and things like that, come out with some element of pride. Say, I'm transgender, or if the conversation gets around to that, you can say, hey, well, I'm gay and I feel this way. It's a lot different than people, finding you out and things, and then controlling the message from there on out. So what do you think about that?
I definitely think it's very important to establish that that the coming out is on your own terms, so that you can maintain your dignity, your self-respect,
And the
your
respect
respect
of others.
of others as well.
Yeah,
Right?
others respecting you. I mean, we know it takes a lot of courage to face when we're transgender. But, how many times when we go through life do we have to take a deep breath? You putting a letter on your boss's, the manager's desk at the plant where you work, and I'm transgendered, here's the story, and then walking out the door after telling the manager that, knowing by lunchtime that day, everybody on every shift would know, like it spread like wildfire.
It spread across 2 counties
Yeah.
within one day because everybody got on their cell phone and started calling their families, and
And it's like people told me, why did you leave a $250,000 a year job overseas, living the big life, the expat life with paid for beautiful apartment, a cook, a driver, a car, and all that kind of stuff? Well, because in that society at that time, to be coming out in the early 1990s is far different than it is today. And for me, when it came out, what happened to me and being caught dressing and that kind of thing, the word also spread like wildfire amongst the professional community. There was no chance that I was going to be able to get life going again. But luckily now, we're some 25 years later from that point now. And so much has changed in the world, even within Asia. And I encourage people, and I know you do too, to don't do things, don't always be hiding about stuff like that, because with the internet age today, we were talking about the flow of information. Of course, since we're transgender, we kind of have an advantage that everything's out there anyway. We've already gone through, with jobs, families, and other things. There's no leverage on it. But if you're not out, things like that, it can be risky having a high-profile presence.
it makes sense to start sending out subliminal messages, and maybe occasionally try to steer a conversation towards the topic of sexual orientation or transgendered, and then just kind of get a feel in like the hangouts, for example, how do people in that conversation respond to the topic. And then when you see that, let's say you say, oh well, I've got a friend that came out as a transgender. And I know several people that have done it this way. They just say, I have a friend that is come out as transgendered. And I would always smirk.
Sort of a straw man to go out there and just see how it holds up. And
I knew actually it was them themselves that were actually, that they were talking about, but I thought it was a pretty good idea. They used basically a straw man instead of friend of mine. So with that, you know, it's a pretty safe way to then look around and see the responses, the reactions of everybody in that chat. Some people will say, oh hey, you know, we have no problem with that. And then you can say, you know what, I gotta admit something here. That so-called friend of mine is actually me, you know, and then just lay down your cards out there and be honest about things, and then
it comes, and with that flows, people may not agree with your lifestyle, and of course you and I never believe, and we're not out here being militant trying to change people's minds about things, because you and I know that we no more had a choice in our being transgender than this straight person had a choice in being straight. I mean, it's who we are, but at least you can get the people respecting you. They may not come out and throw themselves at your feet and say, man, that was awesome that you did that. But inside they're going to say, you know, that was very courageous of you to do that. And from then on, you sort of control, not that I'm using control in the sense that you beat people with it, but in the sense that you're now coming from a position where people can at least theoretically respect you for coming out, as opposed to being called out, especially if you're a person that may have sort of a gray record of having difficulties and dust-ups dealing with people in life. You know, you don't want to be an asshole for one thing, because assholes tend to grow trolls and things like that, and people that have nothing better to do than to try to investigate people. But if you're a decent person and you're an upright kind of guy or girl, and then it's a different story when you come out. People can respect you on the basis of that. So
that's basically the first step that you initially do is when you enter a new group of people. You try to gain their respect by proving yourself being a good person, and I think once people see that you are a good person, a respectable person, then it'll be okay if you're gay, lesbian, transgendered, because that is mostly what I always hear is people would say, you know what, you've been a hard worker. And this is what they told me at work, you know, when I came out to my plant manager and the entire bosses, everybody, you know, we were looking at 10 people in the conference room. And, you know, I had to, like, come out there, you know, they all looked at me and said, you know what, you are one of the top workers here. And you can be whatever you want to be, need to be, and we will support that. Just give us time to learn and understand what we need to do on our part to support you in the working environment.
Now let's reverse that. Suppose you had been called out, you know, or something, you know, out on the street or something like that, or starting your transition, breasts are growing and other things, and then all of a sudden, at work, you just have a constant rising sort of undertone of what the hell's going on with you know, Hank or whatever, that this is going on.
Right.
But because you took the upper hand and were courageous enough to say, hey, this is what's going on, then you with them help shape the message and sort of grade the playing field, if you will, that they might not talk to you. We don't live in a Pollyanna world where we expect everybody's, I get hate mail and stuff like that and things, but at least if they don't talk to you, they may give you grudging respect, and other people over time realize, well, Jennifer's still the same great person as before, and yeah, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah, you take a huge risk, but you got to do what you got to do, and that's like I had people at work that did not talk to me for the rest of me being there, and you're talking about 3 years. Those people would just give me dirty looks every time they saw me, and you know how I responded to that? With a smile, because I was finally me. I was living my true me. I was happy, and they were unhappy, and I think the true reason why they were hating me is because I lived my dream and they were not living their dream.
And it's also something, it's kind of the unknown for them.
Right.
What does it mean if I say hi to her? What does it mean if we eat lunch together?
Right.
What's the blowback going to be on me? So you can understand, though, that because you did what you did, you have to understand the subtlety of this. You had the upper hand. Not that you're trying to beat people down, but people had to respect your courage to come out and do what you did. So they had to be very careful about the way that they openly, you didn't have a lot of open hostility, whereas you might have had snickering before if you were caught. You used to wear, polish your nails and things like that, and all that kind of stuff. But, suppose you were caught out of the Pizza Hut one night and there was a crew coming in and aren't you Hank, or, and then all of a sudden it's like game on, and it's like,
Right.
you have no voice at that point.
You get totally torn to pieces.
You have
So
no voice.
by coming out on my own terms, in my case now, I had total control over the entire situation, and I didn't have to worry about in private wearing my miniskirts and stuff and running into people in the store.
They already knew.
They knew,
Yeah.
and it was all fine,
So this is just our message today from Missy and me, that you really have to think long and hard about your situations and things, and it's not just transgender; it's all types of things. If you're holding some type of information or something, and it's not something you just lay down, but in the course of things, if it comes up, you might just own up to something in the past or something. As versus being that information coming out and then you no longer control it. But certainly the thrust today is about gender issues, of transgender and gay and things like that, because you want to be safe. And our society's reached a point today where society will start to protect you now, because they will say, hey, that was courageous, hey, you live a good life, you're not a moocher, you're not out there doing bad things to other people. You're a good community member, and as such, we're gonna say, okay, we're not gonna allow people to just come on here, whether it's YouTube or other sites, and just start treating you like you're a piñata at a party that you can just start hitting with a stick.
And I think so basically, pertaining that now into real life, but also into when you go now into the hangouts also, the same thing. And another thing is, and that pertains actually to anybody, when you go into the hangouts, be respectful to anybody that is in the hangout. Be respectful, be kind. Don't be an a-hole. If you have hatred in you and you want to spew hatred, just don't go into the hangouts. Go somewhere else.
Well, 10 years ago you might have gotten a lot of traction with that kind of hate, you might have fired
Right.
everybody up, and you know, it's off to the races. But these days it kind of sputters. You know, you really can't get that kind of hate going. I like to think maybe we're a little more evolved and a little more open about things, and a little more not knee-jerk judgmental, but getting to know people as individuals and saying, well, you know, this community's not so bad, or that community's not so bad. You know, and it's a big step forward. So what we wanted to say today was, yeah, it takes courage, but you've got to be in control of your message, or ugly things can happen in life, and the world's too small. It's too connected these days. There's information flows too freely, and you know, you being in control versus somebody else at the stick, it's a totally different story. And I'll tell you, you never get a chance to, you never get a redo. Also, once it's done, it's done. You'll never get a chance to rewind and say, well, I want to handle it different this time. So use your brain. Think about everything. Think about where you live. Think about the community you're in. And think about the way you deal with others. And think about personal courage and things like that. It's not always, life isn't always about the easy, breezy choices. It's doing things to try to benefit yourself and others for the long term. You know, any initial ruckus of coming out and all that, it passes for most of us in a period of a year or two, and life basically goes back to the same channel it was in before. But we've seen disastrous consequences when people get outed, things, politicians and other things. When you don't control the message, it's a hard fall.
There's just to throw my very last piece in, and that's a philosophy that I'm living by, and that is, I live every day as if it was my last day, so that when I go to bed at night, I'm at peace with everybody.
Good thing.
So that if I don't wake up the next day, I've not left anybody behind in this world that has a bad taste in their mouth.
Good deal. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. A little Choochin on a Monday afternoon, the sort of non-conventional variety. But thanks so much for listening. Jen and I really appreciate it, and you know, we think we have something to offer to people, having been kicking the lat around as long as we have. It comes from the heart for both of us, and we care. I don't care who you are. We try to give the very best advice that we can. All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.